Hey everyone, how's it going? Matthew here on the channel. I'm of course joined by my wonderful co-host and best friend.
Callum.
Hey man, great to see you. Now in today's show, we've got another kind of Disney orientated review. We've done loads of these in the past. We've done the whole Disney saga, done a few Pixar films as well, and we're trying to do a bit more, live action Disney stuff, too. And today is no different. Mixing that in, we've got sort of an Amazon Prime, Amazon, original video sort of production here as well. We've done a few of those. The Map of Tiny Perfect Things, one of my favorites as well. I know Callum, you like it too. So it's kind of a good mix of the Disney lore with this sort of modern sort of subscription based production that we're familiar with these days. It's of course Cinderella, which it's not a movie I heard a lot about. Naturally, these sort of subscription based films, like your Netflixes and Amazon Prime, like go under the radar a little bit, but nevertheless, we're here to break this one down. So I'll pass over to Calm to explain what the film's about and how it differs from the traditional Cinderella story.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure it does differ enough to warrant its own existence, but I'm sure we'll get onto it near the end of the review. I'd say light spoilers throughout. I think you can't really ruin Cinderella if you've seen one version, you've seen them all. That there are tweaks here and there. It's more overtly musical. It's attempting to be more overtly comedic. With a turn on modern feminism, especially with the character of Cinderella and her her dreams of being a businesswoman. I was fairly optimistic about this film a few weeks ago, and then the reviews started to trickle in, and I started to hear things about the music. I saw a couple of scenes out of context, and I felt the dread set in. And as I was watching this, I watched this with my brother. I was very very thankful to have someone to watch this with, because I felt so bad knowing that you were watching this alone, because I have never once, checked the remaining runtime of a film so often. It's in no way the worst film I've ever seen, but for some reason I just really struggled to get through it, and I was just wondering what your experience watching it by yourself was.
It's so funny because I think we've kind of jinxed ourselves in the channel saying that we know there's been no real bad slog of films this year, but lo and behold, Candyman 2021 and Cinderella have entered the picture. Now, don't get me wrong, those two films aren't bad. Check out our Candyman review. We kind of compared it to the original, but this one here I didn't have a bad time with it. It's there's a lot of sort of modernizations there. But like you said, it still does call into question why this film even exists in the first place anyway. But that being said, there's a lot to be enjoyed here, I think. For me on my own, yeah, you're absolutely right. I check the clock all the time. I think it has about a 2 hour runtime, just maybe about 8 minutes but below that. But yeah, it's a long film, man. It really does drag in parts. Although there is a lot of great musical numbers in there, and like you said, I think because they're modern tunes that I can remember. Oh, that's an Ed Sheeran song or whatever. It's the recalls there, so that's a lot to be enjoyed. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the film does feel like a big extended music video for me, to be honest. And I think that can work in a good way as well. If you're into that kind of music, if you're into the kind of lore of Cinderella and stuff, you're actually going to love this. But for me, it's just not really my film at all. But it's not that I had a bad time with it. I still think there's a lot of good stuff in here.
How much time did you spend on your phone, would you say?
Well, I watch this film predominantly, as I'm sitting here. So I've got like one monitor here and one monitor here. So on the monitor that I'm speaking to you on, I had the film, and then the other monitor has had the football scores. So you can kind of get a gist of what's going on here. It was Champions League night, if anyone's a football fan. So I kind of had an excuse to sort of flick over and watch a few of the games. But yeah, I think yeah.
Was that like West Ham versus Croatia?
Oh no, this was there's like loads of Champions League games. There's like Barcelona were sorry, not Barcelona, like PSG were playing, Real Madrid, Liverpool, all the big teams pretty much.
Okay. I don't know football, but I just heard about that upcoming match.
But yeah, just before we kick off, the review, as Callum said, is probably going to be light spoilers. I'd imagine everyone's familiar with the Cinderella tale unless you're living under a rock all your life. And I think I might sort of halt a bit on the titling of these mini reviews, because I've definitely been taking a piss with a lot of those mini reviews, given that the last one was like 37
Mm,
minutes long. So I think I'm just going to
yeah.
call this Cinderella review or whatever, just to keep. And also, it sort of helps the YouTube algorithm, I think. So we might get a few extra viewers in there. You might have noticed that I titled the Candyman one a bit differently, just to sort of see how it
Mm.
fared. But yeah, I mean, listen, you kick us off. No football pun intended there, with your thoughts on the film.
Well, I was wondering in general, on principle, we've watched a few musicals here and there. You've mentioned the Disney films we've seen. Did a musical episode quite early on the channel. Uh, I would say in general, I'm not a fan of musicals, but I'd say if you prefer it to actually lead to quite a level of enjoyment. I love the Mamma Mia films. I like The Wizard of Oz. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. But I'd say most modern musicals I'm not a massive fan of. But when we do see them, I was wondering, is your preference covers or original music?
Good question. I think I like a blend of both. There's a lot of times where I think originals work very well. La La Land springs to mind. I really like that one. But there's a lot of ones where I do think Mamma Mia does a good job at doing covers of classic tunes that sound original in themselves, if that makes sense. You've got like the traditional ABBA version of the songs, and then the Mamma Mia versions, in my opinion. I'm not like a huge ABBA fan, so I don't know if that's a lot of people's opinion, but that's how I felt about it. With this film here, I think there's a lot of great songs. Yeah, I actually really enjoyed the music here, and it's sort of intertwined with a few sort of Doc Brown a cappellas, if you will, which I think this, but I'm a huge Doc Brown fan.
Yeah.
Back from his days in the 4 o'clock club as a kid, so I actually think he's really talented. And I know he's very famous for intertwining his rap with his comedy. But he's not given a lot to work with here, to be honest with you. It's not his best stuff, but I think for his time on camera, I think he does well. It's nice to see him back on the camera again. But yeah, how do you feel about musicals?
Yeah, I think I enjoy the jukebox musical of committing to one artist or group like Mamma Mia. But then I'd say as a general principle, I would prefer the original music. Here, I thought it was just a bit of a weak attempt, and a lot of the songs I think don't really work within context. I would say Seven Nation Army, which is performed right before the ball. I'd say it doesn't make any sense within the narrative context of the film, but it probably for me is the highlight of the
That's a
film.
great song.
Just because
Yeah.
I think the actor who plays the prince is probably the most musically talented person in the film.
Yeah, he's great. I think my personal favorite is probably Perfect by Ed Sheeran. I'm a big Ed Sheeran fan, so
Mm.
naturally I'd probably like that a bit more. But I think that album's a good. Material Girl's a good one in here too. And I think predominantly, like, I think all the cast members do a good job of singing. There's a bit of auto tune in there naturally, but I think every successful and every major singer these days uses auto tune. Whether you're Dua Lipa or like KSI or whatever, auto tune is there. It's apparent. It's just how you use it. Really, is the big thing. Um, on that note, I did mention there Doc Brown. This film's got it's a weird one for me, because it's clearly got quite a an American influence as well, but it's also got quite a British influence too, especially in the comedy scene, given that there's quite a
Mm.
lot of sort of mock the week style comedians here. Talking about James A. Caster, James Corden, and Ramesh Ranganathan too, and obviously Doc Brown. How
Rob
do you,
Beckett.
yeah, and Rob Beckett as well. Yeah, I forgot about Rob Beckett. I really like that addition, because it did sort of freshen up, and it brought us something new. But it's something that it's becoming a bit more common now these days, isn't it? James Corden is in a lot of stuff. And Jack Whitehall, we reviewed in Jungle Cruise. So the British comedy scene seems to be making its way over to the States, which is interesting. How did you find that?
Yeah, I find it interesting because it's probably some of the most talented comedians, even some of the most talented comedians in Britain. But they're performing jokes written by Americans, so it's the British
It's
comedians but
unusual.
American humor. And I think
Yeah.
the point of hiring them should be that they bring the British humor to it. But they're just
Yeah.
performing the comedy of another culture. So I mean, I don't think it quite works. Here, I didn't have a particular problem with it, but on principle, I don't think that really works.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. There's a bit of a disconnect there for sure. and especially with the talent of James Acaster and James Corden, Ramesh Manganathan, and Rob Beckett, like those are big names. And obviously I've got preferences in there out of the four. There's certain ones I think are better than others. As naturally everyone will have that opinion. Some people prefer Corden or Ranganathan or whatever, but I think it was a little bit of a waste in some areas. But overall, I think they didn't kill the mood or anything. I think they still held their own in many regards. And that's something I could say as well for Camilla Cabello. Like I thought she was pretty good as well for her. I think this was her acting debut. I was doing a bit of research in the film, and I think she's not a singer I really was aware of, to be honest. I haven't listened to much of her music. If I can think back, I think she might have done a song with Shawn Mendes, if that rings any bells to anyone out there. But she's not an artist I would listen to often. But I think she did well.
I'm familiar with Havana, and that is the extent. That is absolutely the only music I know from her. And I think if this was your introduction to her and her musical talents, it's not a great first impression. It's difficult, because her and Idina Menzel, who plays her stepmother, are the only two professional vocal performers in the film, I believe. But I think they're both outshined, unfortunately, by the actor that plays the prince and by Minnie Driver, who plays the queen. I think it's not great, is it?
Minnie Driver is just delightful in everything I've seen her in. Like I think she's really underrated.
Yeah, I was sort of dreading, when we were finally going to get to the "Let's Get Loud" performance, because that there was sort of an infamous clip a few weeks ago where a few of the cast members stopped traffic in LA, I think it was, and they performed that song, and then James Corden got into a bit of an issue because he hip thrusted at a car. I mean,
classic.
It was massively blown out of proportion, but it was just incredibly annoying. But I was just waiting for that performance to finally happen in this film, and then it was opened by Minnie Driver, and I was pleasantly surprised because I was blown away by her singing.
Yeah, she's absolutely great. It's a pity Pierce Brosnan isn't quite as good. I was really unimpressed with him in this film. I think he just phoned in a lazy performance, to be honest.
I think the singing performance though is an intentional joke. I think it's a reference to the fact that he gets memed about Mamma Mia, and the fact that his singing performance was the worst part of that film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a funny one, Pierce Brosnan, because I've seen him in a lot of stuff and he can be quite good, but he can be not as good in some other instances for me. He's quite hit or miss, but it's funny. Yeah, I think overall the singing quality really does vary with actor to actor, who doesn't it? It's quite polar opposite in some instances.
I would say I got less than 30 seconds into the film before I was confidently feeling hatred towards it. It was so bright and constantly shifting. Like I felt like I couldn't even focus my eyes on it, and I just had a headache immediately. I said to you whether we could push the recording of this because I needed some time to recover, and that is genuinely how I felt.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I think some instances, like a film can be over edited, in my opinion. It's like a good song. Like a good song is not like too overproduced with like ad libs. That's how I think that's for me, like how you would ruin a song. And I kind of feel like you can ruin a movie with too many edits, jump cuts for me as well. Like I think a lot of this film, it's really about, like, it looks gorgeous. Like there's a good vibrancy to it. It's just, for me, a lot of it feels like an extended music video. Like the scenes don't flow together well. It feels like they just had a few ideas for songs that kind of 50-50 fit into the scene that they want to depict, and they just go with it. I think that works for some instances if you've got a really good song, but some songs aren't as good as the other ones, so it kind of feels a bit of a mesh of sort of mediocrity where it just doesn't blend. I don't want to get too critic sounding here. That's not what I am. I don't claim to be that at all, but for me it just didn't flow together as nice as I think it could have done, really, mate.
Yeah, I think the scale of the choreography is impressive, and so is the singing for the most part. But I think both in tandem are just the building blocks of a movie that I just know I will not enjoy. I'd say it's 50-50 if you say, there's going to be a mostly musical film. It's 50-50 as to whether I'm going to really enjoy it or really hate it. And here, I think mediocre is an appropriate word, and I think that is the general consensus, that it's just fine. I mean, there were some scenes that I found torturous. One that has been sort of widely spread as being incredibly cringy is the scene following the creation of the dress by the fairy godmother. And the transformation, I think, from a butterfly into a human is very visually impressive, but just the scene following it is just painful to watch. And I think that is also an opinion shared by everyone who's seen it. And the CGI in that scene compared to like the mice, it's night and day, because the mice are just horrifying.
Yeah, I know. I think a lot of the budget probably went into, individual scenes, like the godmother scene, for example, and maybe not so much into other aspects. Yeah, it's funny. It kind of made me consider like the original Cinderella, the Disney one that we reviewed, probably close to a year ago now, I'd imagine. It's quite some time ago, and how much how good that film is. Yeah, I just there's nothing wrong with the modernization of a classic tale. I think naturally that's what happens. Even with reboots of old sci-fi films, Blade Runner happens all the time. Those kind of things, Star Wars, whatever, Star Trek. There's been loads of reboots. I think modernizations are good. I think it's good for the industry in general. It's just that like I think certain aspects here, there's just I don't know. It just doesn't feel like fresh enough. To be honest, it doesn't feel like modernized enough. Where there's nothing really new. I guess maybe it's the Godmother's one of them, and I think that's quite a good one. But there's other instances where like I think it just has modern songs for the sake of modern songs. Like if you took that away, there's nothing much different from the classic Cinderella tale, in my opinion. I think one thing that film does do very well though is the female empowerment and fight the patriarchy and stuff like that, with the whole businesswoman aspect. I think that's something good. It's not something that I can recall in the original Cinderella of her wanting to be a dressmaker or anything. So I thought that was a nice avenue. It gives her something to long towards and strive towards as the film, rather than just be an object for the prince's affection, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it is great to have a film where that is the central idea. But then I think just packaging it in Cinderella, in order to make it more commercial, like more commercially accessible. I just think it's I didn't get it. I just think that if you're going to go a different route, to the 2015 Disney version, you would think you would go accurate to the to the book, rather than change it fundamentally, because then you could just essentially if you're going to change so many elements of it, just back the fact that you think you have a strong concept and just make it about a dressmaker trying to try and become an up and coming designer within a patriarchal society. I mean, that's perfectly interesting.
Yeah,
if you remove the musical element and then just make that a drama or a dramedy or whatever, I think there's more merit in that than being let's try to do that film but package it in Cinderella so that we can make more money.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying there. Like I think Amazon knows for sure that a Cinderella movie is going to sell. It's going to do very well, no matter who the audience is. You're going to have your Disney fanatics, you're going to have your Camilla Cabello fans, all those kind of things. So I think they definitely knew what they were doing, casting Camilla Cabello in this movie and have it be a Cinderella movie. It's just a weird decision, given that I think there was, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there was a live action Cinderella like a matter of years ago, maybe 2015, 2014.
Ago,
yeah, I mean, there you go. So I think the timing is really off. And I think there's so many better Disney princesses you could do a modernization of. Not that I hate Cinderella. As I said, if you watch our Disney review, I think we both really liked it. It's just I think there's so many other tales that I think you could have done. Pocahontas is one of my favorite Disney films. I'm not sure that would quite work for a modernization, given that the history is quite troubling if you look into it. But I'm kind of looking at the Princess and the Frog. I think that would be a good one to do live action or something like that, or a modernization. Snow White's been done to death. Really, there's been loads of those ones, but there's plenty out there. I think there's definitely plenty out there. I just think maybe this is a bit overkill, where it's that sort of market of live action Disney princess films is maybe a bit saturated at this point. How did you feel?
Yeah, I think taking an animated film, making it live action, I would say there's more merit in this film than there is in a beat for beat recreation You know,
Yeah.
akin to like, you know, taking the Lion King and making that live action. Or, you know, I haven't seen the 2015. It's 2014 or 2015. You know, as you said, Cinderella. You know, but from what I can tell, it is fairly, you know, beat for beat the animated film with, you know, you know, a certain added depth to get the runtime up. You know, so I do think there is more merit in this film than that film. But also I just think it's maybe too soon, or in fact maybe too late. You know, if they'd done this before the Lily James live action one, you know, I think maybe you know, that would have sold a bit better. But I mean, maybe it just wasn't possible in, you know, what Hollywood was 10 years ago.
Yeah, so now Hollywood's changed a lot in the last 10 years. It has 100%. Um, there's a scene in this movie where there's a certain actress here where I have kind of met in this film, which is quite funny. Not strictly met, but I thought you'd be intrigued.
I don't know where this is going.
So basically, there's a character in this film called Queen Tatiana. You know, she has like a little brief moment in this film,
Yeah.
as you know, kind of given Cinderella an opportunity. And I remember I went to see a play of hers in London, and she
Yeah.
winked at me in the audience, and you know, from then on,
Okay.
yeah, I just say I just thought it's one of the few movies I've seen her in. I know she's kind of she's famous over here in the UK with, you know, theater and the West End and stuff like that. And that, I think it's West End is London, Broadway's America, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
So West End. So I thought it was just nice to see a familiar face, shall we say, in one of the one of these films.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I can't follow that up, unfortunately, but that's good to know. You know what, the one welcome change. Well, I mean, I'd say all the changes made in this film are welcome, but it's just, are they enough to warrant the existence of the film? That's the question, and I don't think I can give a firm answer to that. If anyone wants to you know, debate that in the comments, I'd be very interested to hear. You know, do you guys think it was necessary? I mean, I think all the changes are great, but did we need this film? That's the real question. But you know, one idea that they introduced to this film was the idea of them connecting before they actually met at the ball. You know, without the pretense of him being the prince, and you know, her, you know, just in her, you know, at the time persona. And you know, he doesn't fall in love with her, you know, magicked up appearance, and she doesn't fall in love with his status. And I just found that really really refreshing. I mean, it was an idea that, you know, I had early in the film. I was like, oh, it'd be interesting if, you know, he you know, went and, you know, became a part of her community, at least for a day. You know, met her through that rather than at the ball. And then that's exactly what they did. And you know, I can't fault that. You know, I thought that played out well.
Yeah, it completely. It adds another refreshing layer to the romance, and it builds that rapport. I think that, to be fair, the two actors there really do have a good connection, a good spark. I did buy it, to be honest with you. And yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed that. I think there's a scene in the original Aladdin where that kind of happens, isn't there? There's like a
Yes.
scene where they meet kind of on, like, one of them pretends to be someone else or something. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've seen that film, but like they sort of disguise and meet that way, don't they? So
Yeah,
um
Jasmine like meets him in the markets, and then he realizes she's a princess, so then he thinks he has to, you know, make himself into a
that's
prince.
it. Yeah, it's something similar. So I really enjoyed that. Yeah, I think that's a spot on comment, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I definitely agree that they have an appropriate amount of chemistry. You know, I thought it was maybe going to come across as awkward, or that the film was, you know, going to end with her complete rejection of him. We said light spoilers. I mean, it's pretty much full spoilers, but you know, how much of Cinderella can you spoil? That's the real question.
That's
You
it.
know,
Yeah.
because I think you could never have seen Cinderella in your life, but you know, it's
You know the
absolutely
story
you
through the
know,
societal,
within
you
the
know, stuff.
zeitgeist. You know, I think you're I
Yeah.
think you're 100% aware whether you've seen it or not. But you know, uh, I think it's time to ask you, because I think we're probably approaching the wrap up, and you know, this is a new enough release. I wanted to ask you, Matthew, would you consider this film a massive hit or a piece of shit?
Um, I'm gonna surprise you, Calm, and go for a massive hit, just because
Okay.
I thought, you know, I wasn't expect because I didn't know anything about this film. You know, that's one of the
Mm.
reasons why, you know, I like doing reviews with you, because you know, these movies I don't know much about. So it's you know, it's surprising, you know. And it kind of makes me think, I wish I'd done this with films that, I had already an interest in. Imagine not knowing anything about Spider-Man No Way Home and watching that film. It kind of got me thinking. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good things I like here. I like a lot of the modern songs, a lot of the modern pop songs. I like Doc Brown in this. I think he really does well. Camilla Cabello is really good too, and I think Idina Menzel is fantastic too. She's kind of, it's a weird one because the stepmother she's awful in some instances, but then in some instances she's kind of not too bad. I mean, I don't know if that's off the off the rails to say or something, you know what I mean? But I thought,
well, I mean, she does just seem to, with like manners and posture and that, she's treating her the same as the other sisters, and she also, is being strict about, what she can do with her life because she wants her to get a husband, which, I mean, that's very restrictive and, patriarchal, but it's also, she has that same view towards her other two daughters. So I mean, she's at least viewing her in equal status, at least in regards to, what she wants for their future. But how she's treating her in the present is awful. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think this film is needed, but that being said, I think there's a lot to enjoy. And if you're a Cinderella fan and you're kind of, you want something fresh and you want a few new takes and things, I think you'll really like this one. So I would say a massive hit, and maybe like a 5 to 6 out of 10. Certainly not the worst, but yeah, that's what I would say. I'm interested to see what you would say though, Callum.
I've said to you recently that I feel like it's impossible to give a film like a 1 out of 10, because I think there's a level of competency that gives it a minimum. I would say the worst film of like a 3, a 3 or a 4, because I mean even the worst films probably have okay sound. Even the worst films are probably in focus. So yeah, there's probably one admirable performance. That there is usually a redeemable quality even in the absolute worst of cinema. So I think there is a minimum out of 10 that isn't actually 0. I don't think it's the best movie is 10, the worst movie is 0. I think there is a certain a minimum quality. So I would say a 5 would probably still be a piece of shit in my mind. But you go, Matthew. It's not the worst thing I've seen recently, which I mean is an unfortunate statement. But I don't think I would have finished this film if I didn't have to. I watched some absolute dog shit and I power through.
You do watch some absolute shite, don't you?
The fact this film was, I'm still working my way up to, watching He's All That. That's going to be one to tough out really. But I think because it was an hour and 52, that was sort of a quite the mountain to climb, and I don't think I would have bothered if we weren't going to review it. I think there are admittedly ups within the film. I think when it's good, it's very good. I think the transformation scene from from butterfly to fairy godmother, I think that's a great scene. But what follows it is the representation of the massive downs of the film. I think there's a lot of good physical comedy, but overall it's not terrible, but it's just unrelentingly annoying. I think that's the best way I could describe it. It just was really annoying.
Yeah, I do.
So,
you get it.
in conclusion, piece of shit, unfortunately.
That's the first time we've probably disagreed in a while, I think.
Well, because me and Matthew, it's obviously just a bit of fun. The massive hitter piece of shit. You don't need to take it too seriously. It's just like the Weekly Planet doing best film ever, worst film ever. It's just you commit to a binary, but it's there's obviously the gray area of like mediocre films which aren't really either. And that's sort of where this film is. It's sort of mediocre, but then the music brings it down a little bit for me, where I think it's just annoying, and I think annoying films probably deserve to be committed to piece of shit, unfortunately. Yeah. But that's just for me. I think we are different from film critics, because like we're not saying this film is good. I mean, piece of shit would probably say otherwise, but we're not saying this film's good or this film's bad. We're saying we didn't enjoy this film. We did enjoy this film. I think there's a distinct difference there. We wouldn't discourage anyone from watching a film. I think you hear other people's opinions, you educate yourself on that, and then you decide whether it's worth your time. But I don't think we would ever suggest a film isn't worth someone's time, because often I watch absolute dog shit and have the time of my life. I think mediocre films are probably the worst position to be in, where you just feel like you've wasted your time because you haven't laughed, or you haven't had fun, or you haven't been educated in something important. It was just distinctly average or below. I think that's where I think that's the only time. I think that's the only instance where time is wasted, and that's maybe where we would say, don't waste your time. But here, I think there's fun to be had in certain moments. And I wouldn't discourage anyone from watching it, but it specifically wasn't for me. But I don't think we are the binary intended audience.
Certainly, yeah. I think Callum put it perfectly. To be honest with you, I feel the same. And we're not film critics. We definitely don't claim to be. If you've watched our channel and you're regulars, you'll know that. We're just here to have a laugh, have fun, and the rating system would suggest that. Not to be taken too seriously, but yeah, that wraps up another review on the channel. Thank you very much, Callum, for your time today. If you want to check out this film and similar playlist, I'll probably add it to the Disney one, and I might actually have to start doing an Amazon Prime Video one, because I think we've done Songbird, Map of Tiny Perfect Things, and then maybe another one in there. So
Palm Springs in the UK, I believe, is a Amazon original, but
Tomorrow
I don't think it
as well.
technically. Yeah, I don't think it technically falls under the Disney banner, because I think it's like the copyright for the like Brothers Grimm book. I think it's just out of copyright, so they were able to make this movie, but
they pulled a fast one.
Famously, they did pull a fast one. Famously, a Disney property, but with a very new skin, I think, on this one.
Yeah, well, stay tuned, guys, in the channel for loads of content coming up as well. And as always, hope you guys are all well. Hope your family and friends are all safe and well too. Take care, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.